I don't know if you can relate to this, but today was one of those days where I just had a moment of feeling the weight of everything, the overwhelm of everything. It feels like the world is burning in multiple directions at once. I'm looking at the things that I'm juggling in both my personal life and my professional life, including building two businesses while trying to be present for my loved ones, trying to be present for my nephews who are growing up faster than I can keep up. And some days I just wake up and the sheer volume of everything that needs my attention can feel paralyzing. But as of late, I've been grounding myself in two mottos that are keeping me sane. They're helping to keep me focused and to actually move forward instead of just spinning in circles. And so today I want to share them with you because I think a lot of you would benefit from hearing this and from being introduced to some different ways of moving and navigating through times of overwhelm. The first is keep the main thing the main thing. And the second is a frog a day keeps the stress away. And these aren't just cute phrases. These are mindset shifts rooted in ancient wisdom that even the Stoics figured out thousands of years ago. And they might be exactly what you need to hear right now. Hey y'all, this is Vivianne, and welcome to Choose Courage Inc. I know sometimes the default can be to create physical space from chaos, whether that's I'm going to go on vacation, I'm going to log off work early so I can think more clearly about what matters and do things I actually care about. But physical distance only goes so far if you don't create mental distance from the noise as well. And listen, the noise is loud right now. The news is relentless, especially if you're in the States. Social media is exhausting. LinkedIn is a bigger trash fire than ever. It can feel like everyone wants something from you, your time, your attention, your energy, your opinion on things you have no control over. And it's easy to feel like you're drowning, right? It's easy to spend your days reacting to whatever is loudest instead of responding to what's most important, to what allows you to be the most present. And it's easy to confuse motion with progress. And I've been there. I mean, let's be real. I'm still here some days. But these two mindset shifts have become my anchor when everything feels like too much. Now, before we dive into the two shifts, let me talk about why I'm drawing from Stoic philosophy for this episode. The Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, they weren't just philosophers sitting in ivory towers thinking abstract thoughts. They were dealing with actual chaos, y'all. Like Marcus Aurelius was literally running the Roman Empire while dealing with plagues, wars, and betrayals. Thetis was born into slavery. Seneca was navigating the insanity of Nero's court. And they developed their philosophy not in peaceful times, but in times that probably felt a lot like what we're living through right now. Times when everything felt uncertain, when bad news came from every direction, when it was easy to feel overwhelmed and powerless. And their answer wasn't to pretend everything was fine. Their answer wasn't to lean into toxic positivity or denial. Their answer was to get really clear about what you can control and what you can't, and then to focus all your energy on what's within your power. Ryan Holiday, who's written a lot of incredible books in Stoic thought, puts it this way. He says, the obstacle is the way. The chaos you're experiencing isn't something to avoid. It's the training ground for developing the mental clarity and the emotional resilience you need. And so let's talk about the first mindset shift, which is one of the mottos that I've been really clinging on these days. And that is keep the main thing the main thing. This phrase isn't originally from the Stoics, but it does capture something they understood deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his book Meditations, he said, quote, confine yourself to the present. Ask yourself constantly, what is this to me? In what way does it concern me? End quote. And here's what I've realized. Most of us don't actually know what our main thing is. We think we do. But when you look at how we spend our time and our energy, the truth tells a very different story. Your calendar reveals your priorities probably more accurately than your intentions do. Your bank statements show what you actually value more than your vision board does. And where your attention consistently goes, that's your real main thing, whether you meant it to be or not. So before we can keep the main thing, we have to get brutally honest about what our main thing actually is. So I want to walk you through how to identify your main thing because this is harder than it sounds at times. First, I want you to ask yourself, if I could only accomplish one thing in the next 90 days, what would create the most meaningful change in my life or in my business? One thing in the next 90 days. Not what would look most impressive, not what would others think you should focus on, not what you think could get the most likes or engagement on LinkedIn, but what would actually move the needle on what matters to you. For me right now, my main thing in business is launching Moonpause and making sure it actually serves the people who need it. Everything else, the speaking, being at certain events, content creation, these are all supporting activities, but they're not the main thing. In my personal life, my main thing these days is protecting my mental and physical health so I can sustain the work I'm doing and be present for the people I love. I especially noticed this during the last few years of the year when we're hitting fall. My body tends to be a lot more sensitive to stress, to the things that cause it to be and feel strained. So I have to be even more intentional with my mental and physical health. Everything else, the social obligations, the networking events, the keeping up with every crisis, those are secondary. All right. So again, that was the first question. The second question I want you to ask yourself is, what am I doing that's actually in conflict with my main thing? What am I doing that's actually in conflict with my main thing? And this is where it can get a little uncomfortable because most of us are spending significant time and energy on things that actively work against what we say matters most. I was saying my health was my main thing, but I was saying yes to every client request that came in, even when it meant working evenings and weekends. Or I was saying Moonpause was my main priority, but I was spending hours scrolling on social media. I was on Instagram, I was in those reels, or I was on LinkedIn just getting worked up about what's happening in the UX industry, one that I have already left. And so your main thing isn't just what you focus on, it's also what you're willing to say no to. It's also what you're willing to put distance on in terms of your emotional energy. And the Stoics understood something crucial here. They understood that clarity comes through subtraction, not addition. Seneca wrote, he said, quote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Life is long enough, and a sufficiently generous amount has been given to us for the highest achievements if it were all well invested." End quote. Most of us think we need to do more, be more, achieve more. Nah, the real power comes from doing less. Specifically, doing less of what doesn't matter so you can do more of what does. This is where keep the main thing becomes a practical tool and not just an inspiring phrase. Every time something asks for your attention, whether that's an email, a request, an opportunity, a crisis, you run it through this filter. Does this serve my main thing? And if yes, engage. And if no, decline or delegate. If maybe, you probably need more clarity on what your main thing actually is. And until that point, decline or delegate. And this sounds simple, but it does require constant practice because it's often moving up against a habit of us being willing to put ourselves and the priorities and our needs on the back burner in service of other things who don't deserve it. Because everything that wants your attention will present itself as urgent. Everything will feel like it matters. Everything will have a justification for why you should say yes, but urgent and important aren't the same thing. Epictetus says, quote, "If you wish to improve, be content to appear clueless or stupid in extraneous matters," end quote. You have to be willing to disappoint people, y'all. You have to be willing to miss out on some opportunities with an understanding that there is more on the other side. You have to be willing to look like you're not hustling hard enough. You have to be willing to not care what other people think or how they perceive how you're living your life because you are keeping the main thing the main thing. Now, let me get practical about how this shows up in business because this is where I see a lot of people struggle the most. When you keep the main thing in business, it means you stop doing things just because other successful people do them. It means you don't start a newsletter just because everyone says you need one. And then you aren't thoughtful in terms of how you're structuring it, how you're building it, what value you're offering to people. You don't just launch a podcast just because it's trendy. You don't just create free downloads or lead magnets or webinar funnels unless they actually serve your main thing. And I watched so many entrepreneurs exhaust themselves trying to do everything the business gurus say you're supposed to do. But most of that advice is generic. Let's be real. It doesn't account for your specific situation, your unique strengths, or your actual main thing. Like, I remember for Humanity Centered, my main thing used to be creating deep transformation for organizations that were serious about becoming trauma informed. That meant I had to say no to a lot of potential clients who wanted surface level workshops. Hey, Viv, can you do a training for us on unconscious bias? Absolutely not. It meant I had to say no to speaking opportunities that didn't align with that mission. And it meant that I had to turn down money just because the work wouldn't serve the main thing. For Moonpause, my main thing is creating an experience that genuinely helps people connect with their pets in a more meaningful way while also taking better care of themselves. I want to be that moment of joy and wonder and excitement for people during that day. And that means I'm not trying to be the next viral app sensation. I'm not optimizing for growth at all costs. I'm really trying to build something with my team. Me and my partners are trying to build something that's sustainable, that actually delivers on its promise. When you keep the main thing, your business becomes clearer. Your marketing becomes simpler. Your decisions become faster, more intentional because you have one filter for everything. I want us, though, to apply this to our personal life. Keeping the main thing looks different in your personal life, but the principle is the same. Marcus Aurelius wrote, quote, "You can leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think," end quote. That might sound a little morbid, but I actually think it's pretty liberating because when you remember that your time is limited, it becomes easier to say no to things that actually don't matter. You have one life on this side of forever, on this side of eternity. And when you remember that, you're a lot more willing, a lot more conscious and aware of the things that actually are worthy of your time and your energy and your gifts and access to you. I think about my nephews. They are 5, 4, and 1, and they are my heart. And they're not going to be this age forever. And it's tough because I'm in Mexico, so I'm already missing soccer games, I'm missing birthday parties, but I also can't allow my work to get in the way of me building connections with them, even if it's virtually, even if it's remote, because that would be a betrayal of what I say matters to me. So that means I want to be intentional in being out and about in my neighborhood, in my city, and sending them a gift box every other month of toys and Mexican candies and lucha libre masks because I want them to know that I'm present. It means I need to be intentional in having video calls with them, hearing about how kindergarten is going, hearing about how the soccer game went, and not letting work or a project or a deadline put that on the back burner. You know, I have to think about my friendships, the real ones, not the networking ones, not the LinkedIn ones. I'm thinking about the real friendships, and those don't maintain themselves through occasional likes on social media. They require actual time and attention and intentionality. You know, I'm thinking about my health, specifically as I'm thinking about my kidney disease and how stress literally attacks my body and can cause me to be kicked out of remission if I'm not careful. So saying yes to things that drain me isn't noble. It's self-destructive. It's a health risk if I actually do it. So when the main thing is clear, everything else becomes easier to navigate. Not easy, but easier because you have a North Star. You have clarity about what's moving you forward and what's causing you to move forward. But I want to talk about something that is equally important while we're on this subject. Here's what keeping the main thing actually requires: the discipline to protect it, the discipline of protection. This means building your life and your business around your main thing, not trying to squeeze your main thing into the cracks of an already overfilled life. For me, this has meant blocking off sacred time on my calendar for deep work on moon pause that cannot be moved for client meetings. For me, this has meant building in mandatory rest periods within my businesses. I call them rest and resist weeks. And I also have a rest month, which is 3.5 weeks consecutively in the summer, so that my health doesn't become an afterthought. Being willing to fire clients who don't respect boundaries, even when it costs me money. Removing apps from my phone that pull me into outrage cycles that don't serve me or that distract me. These aren't extreme measures. They're what keeping the main thing actually looks like in practice. I've had seasons where I put my phone in grayscale. You can change it to remove the color so it's not as appealing because I need to focus on the main thing. The Stoics called this living according to nature, aligning your actions with what you know to be true about yourself and what matters. Not fighting reality, but also not letting external chaos dictate your internal priorities. All right, so that was the first mindset shift, the first motto: keep the main thing the main thing. Now let's talk about the second one that has been grounding me and keeping me sane and stable these days. And that is a frog a day keeps the stress away. This is my twist on the concept of eating the frog, which comes from Mark Twain's quote of the quote goes like this. It says, quote, if it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat two frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. End quote. The frog is a task you're dreading, the thing on your to-do list that you keep avoiding, the conversation you need to have but you keep putting off, the decision you need to make, the project you keep putting off. And here's what I've actually learned: that the stress of avoiding the frog is worse than the discomfort of actually eating it. The Stoics understood this. Seneca, he wrote, he said, quote, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality, end quote. Whew, that's a good one. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. The anticipation of difficulty is usually worse than difficulty itself. But I want to talk about why we avoid our frogs in the first place, because I think understanding this helps us actually change the behavior. Most of the time, we avoid tasks because they trigger some kind of fear or discomfort: fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of discovering we're not capable as we thought, discomfort with conflict, discomfort with uncertainty, discomfort with being a beginner at something. So instead of eating the frog, we do everything else. We respond to emails that don't matter. We reorganize our workspace. We research solutions instead of implementing them. We're like, I wonder how that one person from high school is doing. And we go down that spiral. We scroll social media looking for inspiration. And all this creates what I call productive procrastination. You're doing things, you're checking boxes, but you're not actually moving forward on what matters. And every hour you spend avoiding the frog, the stress just compounds itself. That difficult conversation you need to have doesn't get easier the longer you wait. The project that you're avoiding doesn't get smaller. That decision you're putting off doesn't become clearer. And meanwhile, the weight of not doing it just sits with you. It's there when you wake up. It's there when you're trying to focus on other work. It's there when you're just trying to relax at the end of the day. And so Marcus Aurelius, he says, quote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way, end quote. Your frog, the thing you're avoiding, that's not just an obstacle, that's the path forward, y'all. The stress you're feeling isn't a sign to keep avoiding it. It's a sign that this is actually what needs your attention. And here's what happens when you commit to eating one frog a day. Momentum builds. Not because eating frogs gets easier. Some days the frog is bigger than others, but because you develop confidence in your ability to handle discomfort. That's the key. Hey, this is Vivianne, and I hope you're enjoying this episode so far. And I just wanted to pause for a quick moment to say that this podcast is ad-free on purpose. And we want to keep it that way so that it feels like a space that's just for us and just a little bit more divorced from noise on what we should buy and what we should consume. And so the best way to help us do that is by sharing it with someone you think would really connect with it, someone who you think would feel encouraged or get something out of this episode, or by leaving an honest review because it helps more folks find us. And honestly, it could be the exact thing someone else needed to hear today, just because you took a moment to spread the word. So thanks for being here. I appreciate you, and let's get back to it. Every time you do the thing you've been avoiding, you prove to yourself that you can handle hard things. You build evidence that the anticipation is worse than the reality. You strengthen the muscle of doing what needs to be done instead of what feels comfortable. And this is straight out of Stoic practice. Epictetus, he talks about this with his students, and he taught his students to deliberately expose themselves to discomfort, sleeping on hard beds, feeling the pangs of hunger, practicing poverty. Not because suffering is good, but because learning to handle discomfort expands your capacity for action. I want to say that again. Learning to handle discomfort expands your capacity for action. You don't need to practice poverty, but you do need to practice doing uncomfortable things. And eating one frog a day is a manageable way to build that muscle. So then, how do you identify what your frog is on any given day? First, look at your to-do list and notice which task makes you feel a little bit of dread when you think about it. That's probably your frog. Second, I want you to ask yourself, what am I avoiding that if I did it would create the most relief or progress? Because sometimes your frog is having a difficult conversation with a team member about performance issues. Sometimes it's making a decision about whether to continue a project or let it go. Sometimes it's tackling the hard part of your work that requires the most focus and you've been putting off because it's hard. Sometimes it's having that conversation with a friend that's not really a friend, but you know you need to have that conversation so you can have some distance between you and this person. Your frog might not be the biggest thing on your plate. It might not even be the most time consuming, but it is the thing that's taking up mental and emotional space beyond its actual size. Third, I want you to remember that your frog should be something within your control. This isn't about forcing yourself to do things you can't actually do or solving problems that aren't yours to solve. This is about taking action on things you have agency over, but have been avoiding because they're uncomfortable. And so here's how I've been practicing eating the frog. I do it first thing in the morning before anything else grabs my attention. Actually, I start on Sunday night. I have a whiteboard. I'm looking at it right now as I'm recording this. And I have a box and it says, eat the frog. And then it has the dates for this week. And I have about 7 different sticky notes in this box. And these are frogs I need to eat this week. A frog a day keeps the stress away. And I have it here so I can visually see, here are the frogs. I just have to eat one a day. I don't have to eat 5. If I want to eat 2, cool. But I'm really just shooting to eat 1. Not first thing after I check my email, not first thing after I scroll social media, not first thing after I have a few meetings, but first thing in the morning, first thing in the day, before my brain has time to negotiate or rationalize or convince me that something else is more important. I need to eat a frog. This doesn't mean I jump out of bed and immediately tackle the hardest thing. I'm not a monster. I actually like myself and enjoy slow starts to the morning. Lately my morning routine has been waking up early, going for a 30, 40-minute walk by myself without my dog because I need my space. I need my me time, and listening to an audiobook, enjoying the crisp morning of fall air. It means having my coffee. It means taking care of my dog, spending time with my dog, eating breakfast. I do a few minutes of even just being present with myself. But once I'm actually starting my workday, the frog comes first. Ryan Holiday talks about this in his book, The Obstacle is the Way, which, by the way, is a really great book. It's a book I find myself rereading when I'm in seasons of overwhelm, when I'm in seasons of just feeling the weight of the world aching now. But Ryan Holiday talks about this in his book, The Obstacle is the Way. He says, and he talks about how the process is just about finishing the smallest task you have right in front of you and finishing it well. Finishing the frog, actually completing it, not just chipping away at it. And that, I think, is the secret to creating momentum that can then carry you throughout the rest of your day. Now, I do want to be honest about what this practice actually feels like because I don't want to romanticize it. Some mornings, eating the frog is satisfying. Like you tackle the hard thing, it goes better than expected, and you feel accomplished and energized. You are like, I am winning the day. But many mornings, if I'm being real, eating the frog just feels like pushing a boulder uphill. It's hard. It takes longer than you wanted. The results aren't as clean as you hope. You don't feel like a productivity hero. You just feel tired, and that's okay. And that's actually the point. The goal isn't to feel amazing about eating frogs. That's not the point. That's not the goal. The goal is to build your capacity to do hard things, whether you feel like it or not. Marcus Aurelius wrote, quote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm not going to do what I was born for? The things I was brought into the world to do." End quote. We weren't brought into this world to only do things that feel comfortable. You were brought here to create. You were brought here to create, to build, to solve problems, to help people. And that, my friends, requires us to do hard and uncomfortable things. But here's what happens though after you eat your frog. Everything else feels lighter. The mid afternoon, when you'd usually be feeling the weight of everything you haven't done yet, you've already done the hardest thing. The evening, when you're reviewing your day, you can honestly say you moved the needle on what matters. The stress of avoidance is gone. You're not carrying around that low grade, that low hum of anxiety about the thing you need to do but haven't done yet. And this is what the Stoics meant by tranquility, not the absence of challenges, but the peace that comes from knowing you're doing what needs to be done. Seneca wrote, quote, "Nothing will ever please me, no matter how excellent or beneficial, if I must retain the knowledge of it to myself. No good thing is pleasant to possess without friends to share it." End quote. But before that, he wrote about how nothing is pleasant to possess if you haven't earned it through action. The satisfaction of sharing success only comes after you've done the work to create something worth sharing. And so eating your frog is how you create things worth sharing, and ideally sharing first with people who know you, love you, and care about you. Now, here's where these two mindset shifts work together. Keep the main thing tells you where to focus, and a frog a day keeps the stress away, tells you how to make progress on that focus. Your main thing determines which frogs actually matter. Not every hard task is worth doing. Not every uncomfortable conversation needs to be had. Not every difficult project deserves your energy, but the frogs that serve your main thing, those are the ones you need to eat every single day. And for me, this looks like my main thing for Moonpaws right now is launching a product that actually helps people. So my daily frog might be working through a technical problem I don't fully understand yet, thinking about something related to marketing or sales on the back end, or having a difficult conversation with my development team about timeline changes. My main thing personally is protecting my health and being present for people I love. My daily frog might be going to the gym even when I don't feel like it, or having a vulnerable conversation with a friend about something that's bothering me. The combination of these two shifts, clarity about what matters and action on what's hard, that's what's going to create momentum. And so let me pull this together though through a Stoic framework because I think it helps to see how ancient wisdom applies to modern life. The Stoics taught three core disciplines: the discipline of perception, see things clearly without distortion or drama; the discipline of action, do what needs to be done aligned with your values; and the discipline of will, accept what you can't control, focus on what you can. Keep the main thing is the discipline of perception. It's about seeing clearly what actually matters versus what's just noise. It's about distinguishing between what's urgent and what's important. It's about not being distracted by things that don't serve your highest aims. And a frog a day keeps the stress away is the discipline of action. It's about doing the hard thing even when you don't feel like it. It's about not waiting for perfect conditions or perfect motivation or perfect energy. It's about taking action aligned with what you know matters, regardless of whether it's comfortable. And both of these require the discipline of will, accepting that you can't control outcomes. You can't control other people's reactions. You can't even control whether everything goes according to plan. You can only control where you focus and what you do with that focus. Marcus Aurelius wrote, quote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength," end quote. These two mindset shifts are, I believe, how you exercise that power. But I want to also get practical here. I want to get practical about how to actually implement these two shifts because inspiration without implementation doesn't change anything. It's just some cute little podcast you listen to. But I want more for you because I care about you. So every Sunday evening or Monday morning, I do what I call a main thing check in. I spend 15 to 20 minutes asking myself, what's my main thing for this week in business? What's my main thing for this week personally? What needs to happen this week for me to honestly say, I kept the main thing the main thing? Then I look at my calendar and my to-do list and ruthlessly cut anything that doesn't serve those main things. Not postpone, cut it. If it's not essential, it doesn't make the list. And every evening, I've been trying to identify tomorrow's frog. What's the one thing I'm dreading or avoiding that if I do it will create the most relief or progress? And I write it down and I put it at the top of tomorrow's list. And then every morning I eat that frog before I do anything else. Not before coffee, but before anything work related. Because again, I'm not a monster. I like myself. I need coffee. I need some fresh air. I need some me time. I'm not rolling out of the bed and, greeting capitalism first thing in the morning. But before email, before meetings, before easier tasks, the frog needs to come first. And this practice takes discipline. So some weeks, some days I nail it, and other times I struggle. Some weeks external circumstances blow up my carefully laid out plan. And if I'm being really honest, sometimes waves of depression hit and I'm just really struggling. But the practice isn't about perfection, it's about consistently returning to these two questions: what's my main thing? And what's my frog? But sometimes life is lifing, right? And I think it's important to address what happens when life truly gets chaotic because that's when these mindset shifts matter most. When everything feels like it's falling apart, when multiple crises are hitting at once, when nothing goes according to plan, when you're dealing with things beyond your control, that's when keep the main thing becomes your lifeline. Because in chaos, everything feels important. Everything feels urgent. Everything demands your attention right now. But Seneca reminds us, he says, most powerful is he who has himself in his own power. Meaning in chaos, your power is in choosing what gets your attention. Your power is in saying, this is what I'm focusing on, and everything else will have to wait. And a frog a day keeps the stress away becomes even more important in chaos because stress compounds when you avoid taking action. And so when life is lifing, Your frog might be smaller than usual. It might be making one phone call you've been avoiding. It might be sending that one email. It might be making one decision you've been putting off. But eating that one frog, taking that one action will create that sense of agency in a situation that otherwise feels out of control. But let me talk about what happens when you don't practice these mindset shifts, because I want to be clear about what's at stake. When you don't keep the main thing, you end up building a life that looks busy but feels empty. Have you ever felt that before? Have you ever felt like your life looks busy, but it feels empty? You achieve things that don't matter. You make money doing work you hate. You maintain relationships that drain you. You wake up one day and realize you've been climbing a ladder leaning up against the wrong freaking wall. And I've watched this happen to a lot of folks in corporate, and especially some of my clients that I'm coaching. They optimize their entire lives for career advancement, and then they get the promotion and realize it didn't give them what they actually wanted. When you don't eat your frog daily, stress compounds. The things you're avoiding don't disappear, they grow. They take up more mental space, they create more anxiety, and eventually they force themselves to be dealt with, usually at the worst possible time. And I've seen it. I've seen entrepreneurs avoid difficult business decisions until they've drained their savings. I've seen people avoid difficult personal conversations until relationships are beyond repair. I've seen leaders avoid addressing team issues until the whole organization is dysfunctional. And so the cost of avoidance is always higher than the cost of action. But I want to be honest about the resistance that you'll face, even in these moments, even when you want to choose action instead of avoidance, because you'll face this when you try to practice these shifts. Your brain is going to fight you. It's going to tell you that other things are more important, and it's going to try to convince you that you don't have time to focus on your main thing. It's going to lie to you. It's going to generate very compelling reasons why you should do easier things instead of eating your frog. And other people are going to resist it too. When you start saying no to things that don't serve your main thing, some people won't like it. They might even call you selfish or unrealistic or difficult. And there will be days when you fail. There will be these days when you let yourself get distracted from your main thing, days when you avoid your frog and fill the time with busy work instead. And this is normal. This is normal. This is all part of the practice. When I think about Stoicism, and again, Stoicism lately has been this grounding and saving grace for me. The Stoics didn't promise that following their philosophy would make life easy. They promised that it would make you capable of handling whatever life throws at you. Epictetus said, quote, "Don't hope that events will turn out the way you want. Welcome events in whichever way they happen. This is the path to peace," end quote. The peace comes not from everything going according to plan, but from knowing that you're focusing on what matters and taking action on what's hard, regardless of the outcome. All right, let's get into this. If you are ready to actually implement these two mindset shifts, I have a 30-day practice for you. All right. I'll put the summary of the practice in the show notes so you can kind of see it. But essentially the way it works is day 1 through 7, I want you to identify your main thing. I want you to spend this week getting clear on what actually matters most to you right now, both personally and professionally. And I don't want you to rush it. I want you to take your time. I want you to write about it. I want you to think about it. I want you to notice where your attention naturally wants to go versus where you think it should go. So that's days 1 through 7. Days 8 through 14, I want you to then protect your main thing. Now that you know what it is, I want you to start building your life around it, blocking time for it out on your calendar, saying no to things that conflict with it, and even removing distractions that pull you away from it. Days 15 through 21, I want you to then add the daily frog. So notice that I'm not having you do the frog and identify the main thing in week 1. I'm having you do it in week 3. Week 3 is when you add the daily frog. Each evening, identify tomorrow's frog. Each morning, Eat it before doing anything else. Obviously, have breakfast, have coffee, take care of yourself. But I'm talking about before capitalism is get back to it, take care of this. And I want you just to track and be aware of how this feels, what resistance might come up, what happens when you actually do it. And then days 22 through 30. So we'll do like an extended fourth week here. I want you to refine and adjust. I want you to notice what's working and what isn't. Adjust your approach, get more specific about your main thing if you have to, get better at identifying the right frogs. But I want you to start to think about what systems you need to build to support this practice. So again, week 1, identify your main thing. Week 2, protect your main thing. Week 3, add the daily frog. And then kind of like an extended week 4, refine and adjust. And by the end of 30 days, you'll have data about whether these mindset shifts actually work for you. You'll know if keeping the main thing actually creates more clarity and progress. You'll know if eating a frog a day actually reduces your stress. And my guess is you'll find that these simple practices change more than you expected. So I'm going to leave you with this. The world is chaotic, y'all. Life is uncertain. There will always be more things demanding your attention than you have time or energy to give. But you have power over 2 things: where you focus and what you do. Keep the main thing. The main thing is how you exercise your power over focus. It's how you cut through the noise to what actually matters. And a frog a day keeps the stress away. It's how you exercise your power over action. It's how you build momentum even when things are hard. And together, these 2 mindset shifts create something the Stoics called eudaimonia. That is spelled E-U-D as in dog, A-I-M-O-N-I-A. Eudaimonia, which means not happiness in the modern sense, but a life well lived, a life aligned with your values, a life where you're doing what needs to be done instead of what's easiest. Marcus Aurelius said, quote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one," end quote. Stop arguing with yourself about what you should focus on. Keep the main thing the main thing. Stop avoiding the hard things that need to be done. Eat your frog. That's it. That's how you can start to change everything. So that's it. That's it. And that's how you can start to change everything. So thanks for being here, y'all. If this resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember that the obstacle is the way. Thanks for hanging out with us and diving into some of these real and unfiltered conversations. We know your time is valuable, and so we don't take it for granted. If today's episode made you think, if it challenged you, or gave you something new to consider, we'd love for you to hit that follow button on whatever streaming service you're using. That way, you'll never miss an episode when we drop them. And if you want to go even deeper, sign up for our newsletter at choosecourageinc.com, and you'll get updates on new episodes, access to exclusive freebies, and first dibs on coaching opportunities and other resources to help you make bold moves in your life and business. So we appreciate you, we see you, and we're rooting for you. Until next time, keep choosing courage over comfort, and a friendly reminder to drink some water.